Hello and welcome to our new episode of Espresso 4.0. Today we're joined by Rodney Waterman. Rodney, welcome.
Thank you, Philip.
Pleasure to have you in our episode. Thank you for joining me for a virtual coffee or tea, or in my case today, just the water in my janky bottle, which I love it because it's been with me for a while. And I don't want to throw it, even though my wife tells me that I should. Um, why don't you start us off for this episode and tell us a bit about yourself, your background, current position, and what you see as your role in Industry 4.0?
Sure. I guess I'll start out with current position just to introduce. I'm the director of industrial AI at Lityx, and I got into industrial AI mainly because of the growth in my career path. I started out in engineering, and I have an industrial engineering degree, worked with process control as a process engineer, and I absolutely love creating efficiencies within manufacturing and process industries. And it is what led me over the years to work with data analytics, which led to predictive and prescriptive analytics powered by machine learning, which we call industrial AI. So that's who I am, where I came from, and what I'm doing today.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Speaking of industrial AI, what's the biggest misconception companies have about AI, and how do you address it?
I think the biggest misconception is that it's not real yet, or that it's just all hype. Um, yeah, and that doesn't, it's not helped any by some of the things that we see promoted, throughout social media and such. But to to get over that hurdle is difficult at times, even when a prospect can see it for themselves. It's still, there's a difficulty sometimes in that hurdle of it can't be that good, right? I
Yeah.
had a conversation recently, well, more than a conversation, a demonstration with a potential customer who gave me some data that they had already analyzed and asked if we could analyze it and see how long it takes us to get to the same answer they got to. We did it in 98% the time that they spent in analyzing that data with the same result. And he was a little hesitant about moving forward. And I had to ask him, when is the right time to move forward with a technology that reduces the amount of time it takes you to analyze data by 98%? And it sometimes it's just difficult for people to take that step into something that last week was just completely impossible in their mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's why it's difficult. It was impossible in their mind just last week, and
That's right.
I think that's the root of the problem. Having said that, many companies struggle to see ROI from AI investment. On the other hand, so what's your approach to demonstrating tangible results early in the project?
Well, it really all begins with the plan and and what you're starting with. Too many times executives will hear about successes in the marketplace and send out a directive to incorporate AI with no real direction or how it's going to be used, right? But when you start with a clear use case and a plan to accomplish a goal that is well aligned with the corporate goals, success is almost inevitable then. And so it just makes so much more sense to start with a clear use case, how it's going to be used, who's involved, and move forward that way rather than just throwing something at it.
Yeah, yeah. It's not about the cool technology. In fact, what needs to be in kind of what needs to be an end result should be a tangible and well-defined business value,
Yes, yes.
and you need to have obviously relevant data as it relates to the scope that you are trying to achieve, as opposed to just a fancy tech. Fair enough, of course. I think that's a repetitive. It's a repetitive theme, and it merits repetition because people seem to keep making the same problem. Can you share a specific success story from the industrial division that in Lityx, including key metrics like energy savings, increased uptime, or revenue growth?
Yes, yes. Several we could talk about. I think probably one that would resonate the most with people is a customer of ours who produces wax. They had a desire to increase their yield. It's a petroleum um, raw material that
Mhm.
is processed into wax, and it's a pretty large operation. And so they wanted to reduce their scrap, improve their yield, and weren't sure exactly how far they could go. But as most industrial operations are, some people have, I'll call it a gut feeling, just because they know the process well, that it could be better, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And and so they've been working on it with little success, a little bit, but not a lot. They thought it could be more. And within just a few weeks, we were able to give them direction on how to improve their yield. Now, our initial models said that we could improve their yield, or reduce their scrap by 77%, which was huge, right? And
Yeah.
everybody kind of looked at that and said that that's not possible. It really, I mean, there's something missing in the model, that's not going to work. And and we're not going to argue with that, because obviously there are times when you leave things out that something might not have been there. But instead, we all took the positive direction of, well, we can do something here. And so within just a few weeks, about 6 weeks, we had reduced, actually, it was less than that, about 4 weeks, we had helped them to reduce their scrap by 35%. Then in another couple of months, reduced it a total of 50%. So just within 5 or 6 months, had reduced their scrap tremendously. And this was a pretty good size operation. So it turned into over $10 million a year for them in new product, or good product, where they didn't have to add raw materials or add new equipment of any type, and built out this better optimized process because of the direction we gave them. Now, I will add, this was about 4 years ago, and about 2 weeks ago, we received information from them, an email of a screenshot of a chart that they run, showing that over a weekend, they actually performed at 70% reduction of scrap. So while that initial effort um, didn't produce that 77%, it gave them the information and the belief that they could achieve that 77%. And now today it's becoming something that may be a regular occurrence. So it's a fascinating story, on all sides.
Fascinating indeed. I want to dissect a little bit, if you don't mind. So this
Sure.
is running a recommendation, set of recommendation, or is it running in closed loop?
It is not closed loop. So our our offering is more of a decision support offering. So the data is collected, analyzed, information provided back, specific actionable directions on how to achieve what you're trying to accomplish. So it is not closed loop, at least not today. There are some companies
Yeah,
out there that offer that. We do not.
yeah, yeah. And nonetheless, this is you've moved. The company has had basically a cultural change in terms of the way they operate, from
Mhm,
experience based and hard coded based, possibly, way of
mhm.
to manage their production, to a data driven production management, which, as you said, it yielded some pretty. Even if you told me honestly 70%, I would say I would call bull. But it's very, it's very good to hear, and and it feels really good. It feels warm inside when a client sends you a screenshot saying we've actually reached your initial
It is. Yeah.
initial estimation.
Right. That customer has been so thrilled with the outcome that they have spoken with us at conferences, and offered various support in other ways to help other customers understand what's real and what can really be done.
Excellent. As far as scaling and the future of AI in industry is concerned, so scaling AI from a successful pilot to full production is a common challenge, right? A lot of companies end up
Hmm.
that. pilot purgatory, where a lot of projects
Mhm.
try to run up there. What are
Right.
the key factors that determine whether an AI project will scale successfully?
I think there are a couple of things that are key. One is we talked about it a little bit earlier when we first help identify a project, a use case, and making sure that not only does that fit with the corporate goals, but that everyone in the I'll say the line of stakeholders is aligned with um, that need, that it is part of the goals and what we're trying to accomplish. When you have that, you have a cooperation and an interest and buy-in from so many different people that it drastically improves your chance of success. And then scaling after that first success of a pilot, scaling is much easier because you have again the support across the organization. So I'm going to first say the people in the alignment. You mentioned the word culture a moment ago, and in culture, there's often a culture shift that has to occur because in that example I gave a moment ago about IGI wax, like most operations, you have operators that are used to adjusting the dials, if you will, and tweaking the operation. Um, Second shift comes on, tweaks it the way they want to run it. Third shift comes on, tweaks it the way they want to run it, and so it's not consistent. But by believing in the results or the direction that AI provides, and everyone surrounding that and supporting it, you have a culture shift of not just an operator being completely relied upon, but the directions that are given and all of us working together to make sure that those work with the system that's in place. Long answer, but alignment of those people and the culture. The second thing I'd mention is making sure that the right tools are in place, that you've got tools that are in place that are easy to use, accessible to everyone,
Hmm.
and are there ready to move, help things move along quickly. So that's important as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, actually, the answer is quite layered, right? Starting from the culture to architecture
It
to the
is.
right tools,
Hmm.
on and all things need to be in harmony in order for that to actually work.
Yeah, which is another reason why you want to start with something small, a pilot. Um,
Correct.
you don't
Yeah.
want to typically, try to um, throw AI across the whole
Yeah.
enterprise and say, "Hey, let's just
Yeah.
do AI tomorrow." That's not going to work.
There's a dichotomy there because you need to think big. You need to
Hmm.
think solving for future problems, but you got to
Hmm.
start small. So
It's
I
true.
guess the saying or motto there is think big, start small, and then
Hmm.
reiteratively kind of build on top of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you see the role of AI evolving in industrial decision making? Will it remain a support tool, or do you see a shift towards more autonomous systems? That's kind of going off my earlier question on whether it's running in.
Yeah. Um, well, I'm not sure that we'll ever get, all the way into autonomous systems. There are, I guess what I mean is as we grow and AI takes on more and becomes an enabler for autonomous systems, there will be other decision support realms that we're not even thinking about today.
Mm.
So I think that yes, there will be more and more applications of creating autonomous systems as we grow, but there will be other more and more applications for decision support. So I'm not sure that it will go one way or the other. I think both will always be around, but we'll just see both of them grow, and in areas that we're not even expecting right now. Same same concept as we had earlier about our belief and what we're not even expecting next week. Um,
Yeah.
you know, based, anyone who's keeping up with dates of this particular recording, last week this DeepSeek release that hit, no one was expecting that, right? That's huge, and and those kinds of things are coming more and more faster and faster. And so there's no telling what will be happening this time next year.
Yeah, faster and faster indeed. Yesterday, Alibaba announced they have another model that's even stronger than and more powerful than DeepSeek. So it's an arms race at this point,
It is.
sort of an
I thought
AI,
the
sort of
same
an
thing yesterday. Yes.
the okay. And last but not least, the adoption of AI in industrial setting is growing. I think you'd agree, and you just said so as well.
Mhm.
What do you see as the next frontier or untapped potential for AI in this space?
Yeah, I guess that last discussion is really tightly related to this because from the plant floor perspective, more and more autonomous systems will grow out of this and what's coming, right? From a decision support perspective, um, some things that aren't being considered today at a business level will be. For instance, if a corporation is trying to decide if they want to add um, robotics to their product mix, how do you decide that? Well, today you have people who are researching what's out there now, what's the market look like, what is the potential sale value, what are the costs, what are our potential margins, what's the supply chain look like, all of those things. But one day, decision support, as we know it, may play a big part of that, where you might ask your AI, let's just simplify it and say, AI, would it be advantageous to our company to add robotics to our product line? And then in a few seconds, AI spits out 100-page report that gives all the advantages and disadvantages with a recommendation at the end, and even how you might need to change your business model in order to be successful in that, right?
Yeah,
So again, decision support will never go away, and there are ways that we will use it in the future that we're not even thinking are possible today.
yeah, yeah. See, so sort of, I guess that would have been an example of some sort of an agentic AI that's trained
It could be. That's right.
on the real life simulation of real life, real
Mm-hmm.
world. Indeed. Okay, interesting. Thank you for sharing that. That kind of concludes my questions regarding industry and your know-how and typically what Espresso 4.0 is about. Thank you very much. Typically, I end
Thank
these
you.
with more personal questions
Oh,
to for the audience to get to know Rodney Waterman a little bit better. So to start with, what's the coolest thing in tech you're nerding out about right now? Um, Not necessarily in Industry 4.0.
well, uh, I would say that the dynamics between releases like DeepSeek and um, quantum computing, you know, because quantum computing um, requires a lot of power because of the cooling systems, but DeepSeek is showing us that it doesn't require near as much power um, as all of the systems that we have seen up until then. And so there's been this huge surge towards supporting that power infrastructure that's going to be required for the systems of tomorrow. But
Yeah,
then all of a sudden, we're seeing that maybe there's a path where there's not so much power required, and so it's been interesting to look into those things and see how those play out, because that will have impacts around the world.
yeah. It would be a punch in the gut if in about a month China comes out with a quantum computer stronger than Google, faster with less, with less, with a lot more efficient, with less energy requirements and all this and that.
Hmm.
That would be something.
It would. It sure would. You're right. We'll see if you were the prediction you provided the prediction that occurs.
I'll keep an eye for the newspapers for sure. Um, and last but not least, if I called you on Sunday at 3 p.m., what would I be interrupting you in?
Probably hanging out with family.
Hanging out with family.
Yeah.
Nice. And like at home, or do you guys have a hangout spot?
Yeah, probably at home. Um, yeah, just probably home.
Nice.
Not
Recharging.
not not really exciting there.
Well, I would disagree. I don't know, but exciting perhaps not, but certainly not as much as quantum
Enjoyable.
computers. Not as exactly, certainly not as much as quantum computing, but certainly enjoyable and a great opportunity
Yeah,
to recharge.
yeah. What about you? What do you
And
do on Sunday afternoon?
well, listen, as someone who lives far away from his family, I'm very envious of your Sundays 3 p.m. So, in fact, what you would find me doing in 3 p.m. is calling my family on a
There you
Sunday.
go. That's good.
I'm not
That's
much
very
different
good.
than you. Excellent. Thank you very much, Rodney. It was a pleasure talking to
Well,
you,
thank you,
and
Philip.
I hope that sometime in the future we'll get a chance to grab a coffee again. Maybe once the new quantum computer is released, maybe before. But nonetheless, take care and good luck.
Thank you, Philip. You too.